गुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Sri Harinam Chintamani series, especially the chapter 12, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses about inattentive chanting. So we had till now 3 sessions. I'll just recap what we discussed so that we are up to the date of what the discussion is happening. The inattention while chanting is called as pramad. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur from verses 2 to 5 explains how, O Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have taught Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Sanatan Goswami to be not inattentive while worshipping the Lord. The highest form of worship of the Lord is through the holy name. And inattention is also an offense. And then he mentions that if one is not able to avoid this inattention, he might regularly chant, but he'll not attain Krishna Prem. And although he's chanting and is not attaining the goal, then he should understand that he's committing this offense called as pramad. So that is discussed in verses 2 to 5. In this context, we had elaborate discussion of how pramad is the root of all the offenses. And we mentioned that one should fix the mind on the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. And most important is to fix the mind on the holy name, which is completely spiritual. And this is meditation. And if you're fixing the mind on the holy name, then there will be these three symptoms. One is humble, one is gaining attraction for the Lord, losing attraction for Maya. And that is why the attention of the consciousness should be on the holy name and nothing else. So we how the mind can focus only on one thing at a time. So this multitasking is not recommended, especially during chanting. And then we discussed the most important principle for chanting, that is to use the pranayam technique for chanting the holy names. So this was one of the discussions which we had in our previous classes. And then meditation is an aspect of smarana, and there are these stages of dashas, which we saw from the Upadesh Amrit. Next, Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes on to define what is pramad. Root meaning of pramad is inattention, and inattention, all the anarthas come from this. And there are these three kinds of pramad: audasina, jada, and vikshep. And in this context, we went into the details of what is this audasina, jada, and vikshep. So how to counteract audasina is to follow the 6th chapter of the Gita, where Dhyana Yoga is discussed. And the first technique is pranayam technique, to still the mind so that mind can attentively hear the mantra. And then we also discussed focusing on the Agya Chakra. We discussed two verses, 5.27 and 2.8, and then 8.10. And I mentioned how this is very difficult in the beginning stages, but one can fix the senses, especially the eyes on the tip of the nose, and avoid the distraction of the senses and sense objects, and fix in hearing the mantra. And later on, because when one fixes the eyes on the tip of the nose, in one sense, one is withdrawing the senses inwards. So slowly, as we master this, one can visualize and fix the mind in the between the eyebrow region, and that is to do with the present moment. And in that present moment, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is what we discussed as a most important principle to hear attentively, fixing the mind. And then there was a posture discussion, and we saw these verses from 6.11 to 6.14, and the postures of our acharyas, how they used to sit straight and chant the holy name. And Audasin, Jad, and Vikshep, how to counteract these three? By three things: sincerity, enthusiasm, and incessantly. Sincerity is a fixed resolve to avoid indifference. Enthusiasm is to avoid jad, and vikshep is distraction by chanting 64 rounds or Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So this is where we finished our discussion in the last class. Now another point or another few principles with respect to this discussion of verses 6 and 7, especially with respect to vikshep. Vikshep is the distraction of the mind. The mind thoughts going from one object to another object, or from one subject to another subject. So that is called as vikshep. And I would like to also discuss some important few more principles from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali Muni. Now, in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali Muni compares the mind to a lake. Here you can see a very beautiful lake. And he compares the self, that is the soul, to what is inside the lake. And here we can see the pebbles inside the lake, because the lake is very clear. And especially in India, there are some rivers where you can see inside the river, that is the river bed, what we call. Especially in Dwarka, there is the Gomati River. In the Gomati River, if you go inside, you can see actually the inside stones and the entire bed of the lake. Now, for to see inside the lake has to be very clear on the surface of the lake, and inside also there should not be any dirt. So Patanjali Muni mentions that there are these 5 states of the mind. Only when the mind is clear, then we can see the self. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaiva atmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. So this is in the Bhagavad Gita, again 6th chapter, verses 20 to 23, where yatro paramate chittam. Chitta means here the consciousness, which includes the entire subtle body. Niruddham yoga sevaya, where the chit is completely free from all the impressions by yoga sevaya, by the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. For us, it is Bhakti Yoga. Yatra chaiva atmana atmanam. Now, with the purified mind, one sees the self. Pashyan atmani. Pashyan means to see. And tushyati. Then he rejoices. He realizes that I am the self. I am not this body. So the clear mind is compared to the clear lake. And just like one who is standing inside the lake, he can see the bed of the lake. So similarly, what covers this clear lake, or what covers this clear mind, is the contaminated consciousness, especially the 3 modes. So Patanjali Muni speaks about these 5 states of the mind. First state, he calls it as Muda. Muda means deluded, as in sleep, laziness, or dullness. So this has to do with Jada. Jada and Muda are quite similar. Jada is because of the mode of ignorance. You feel lazy and you feel tired. In fact, the way you sit in a posture, it can indicate whether you are in goodness, passion, or ignorance. If you are sitting very straight and in a very comfortable posture, even sitting, that is indicating the mode of goodness. If while sitting you're moving, you're shaking, your legs are shaking, you're constantly shaking your legs, then it is a mode of ignorance. And if you're sitting but you're down like this, hands are down, then it is a mode of ignorance. So these all effects on the body are because of the modes which are acting on the mind. So Muda is that one state where there is the mode of ignorance prominent, and that is the state of delusion. Then he speaks about Shipta. Shipta means agitated, as in stress or mania. Now, what you can compare Muda to the lake here is, if this lake is covered entirely on the surface with lot of leaves, lot of dirt on the top, there is no chance that you can see inside the lake. So that is the state of Muda. Now, Shipta is agitated, as in stress or mania. Now, this is because of especially the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. Now, in the same lake, Shipta would be the state where there is not only a lot of dirt on the surface of the lake, but there is a lot of waves. So in the state of passion, there are a lot of thoughts which are coming to the mind at a very high frequency. And this is in the lake analogy compared to a lot of waves which are coming. So if there are a lot of waves also, you cannot see inside the bed of the lake. Firstly, because of on the surface, there is a lot of dirt, a lot of dry leaves, a lot of dirt. And Secondly, because of lot of waves. So that is the state of Shipta. Uh, we call this, in one sense, hyperactivity of the mind, when we become very hyperactive. Then there is Vikshipta, he says. Vikshipta is distracted, as in a lecture in a noisy environment. So there is Shipta and there is Vikshipta. Vishesh Ropena Shipta. Shipta means distracted. Now this is because of the mode of, again, passion, but there might be also goodness. You are sitting attentively and hearing the lecture in the temple, or you're hearing as you're hearing now, but there is some noise which is coming from some other side, and you're not able to concentrate on the lecture because you have been distracted by the noise. But somebody who is in the mode of goodness, or somebody who's in the mode of who has transcended the modes, whose mind is fixed on the self or on the Lord, even there, if there is a distraction, he will not, his attention will not go to the distraction. He will fix himself in hearing the lecture or hearing the holy name. So Vikshipta is distracted, and where you're not able to focus attentively on what you're hearing, but the distraction disturbs you and your attention goes towards that side. So Vikshipta in the lake analogy is some of the outer surface of the lake, like the dried leaves, are all cleared, and the waves in the lake are smooth. There are no too many heavy waves. So if the waves in the lake are smooth, maybe you can perceive a little bit the bed of the lake. So this is Vikshipta. Then Patanjali Muni speaks about Ekagrata, concentrated, as in a serious student revising an hour before the exam. So Ekagrata means fixed. His consciousness is fixed in his task. And his mind, because there is no effect of the modes of passion, especially, his mind doesn't dwell on so many other things, but only on one thing. He's focused on only one thing. Especially this example which is given of a student revising an hour before the exam. Now, in the lake analogy, this is compared to not only that the dried leaves and all the dirt on the surface of the lake is clear, but the lake itself is also still. It is still. But within the lake also, there might be dirt. And that dirt is still not out. But still, we can imagine this is the mode of goodness, in fact. This is the mode of goodness. Ekagrata is the mode of goodness. But the last stage, Nirodha, controlled, as in a devotee absorbed in samadhi, the trance of love of Godhead. So the Nirodha stage, as it is mentioned in 6.20 of the Bhagavad Gita, Yatro Paramate Chittam Nirodham Yoga Sevaya, is when even the dirt inside the lake is completely cleansed off, and you can crystal clear see the shining stones inside the entire bed of the lake. So when the chitta, when the contaminated consciousness, that is the mind, where all these impressions are there, completely are cleansed, with that clear mind, you can see the self. Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. So the point here is, Vikshipta and Shipta refer to Vikshep, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is being discussing, and distraction to other sense objects or other things not related to the holy name while chanting is especially because of the mode of passion. So if we want to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, especially we have to see that we situate ourselves in the mode of goodness. There are some external conditions which help us to be situated in the mode of goodness, especially the night time where you prepare yourself for the next day morning to chant. So that has to be a preparation for that. So we have to prepare our consciousness That's why sometimes it is better. Some devotees chant few rounds in the night to prepare their consciousness for the next day early morning. So early morning is in the mode of goodness. It helps us to focusly chant the holy names. Like this, especially chanting in the temple or chanting in front of the deities or chanting in front of Tulsi, all these factors, external factors, which help us to be in the mode of goodness, so that we can ekagrata, concentrated, fix the mind on the holy name and avoid shipta or vikshipta, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is suggesting, is important. So the essence is that one has to be in the mode of goodness to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is about further points about Vikshape. Any questions, any clarifications you have regarding this, what we have discussed? Anyone has any questions?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, you mentioned that we need to situate ourselves in the mode of goodness to practice in a better way. But Prabhuji, to practice mode of goodness itself, some amount of endeavor is required. And externally, we may do some things like, for example, like we may change our lifestyle and we may change situations or circumstances which are external to us. But internally, that mode of goodness ambience may itself is a very big task, Prabhuji. How do you say that?
Yes, I was expecting this question. Firstly, we have to understand that the modes, Srila Prabhupada, especially in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, explains the modes are acting within us in the heart, the effects of the modes, because the modes are powerful universal forces which affect the mind. They act on the mind. These are, they are very psychological forces which affect the mind. So the mind is through these modes, work. Now, firstly, you have to understand the externals have an effect on the internals. So externally, if we are, having a lifestyle where we practice activities in the mode of goodness, especially prasad, having prasadam which is more sattvic, having a little sattvic lifestyle, getting up early in the morning. So many of the factors are within our control. So the external activities which are done more in the mode of goodness have an effect on the internal. So the modes of passion and ignorance which are deeply affecting our heart, their effect slowly starts reducing. And internally, we start developing the mode of goodness. So that's why we see many devotees in the early morning, it is Brahma Muhurt hour, it is the mode of goodness, and they all sit to chant, but yet they go to sleep. So externally, the mode of goodness is there, but internally, the hearts is being pulled by the mode of ignorance. So the more external activities which are in our control, we start doing those activities in the mode of goodness, that external activities have an effect on the internal, our chitta, and slowly the mode of goodness will start rising in the heart. And then slowly we will be able to overcome the modes of passion and ignorance in the heart by adopting that kind of a lifestyle. So the externals have an effect on the internals. So that is the most important principle you have to understand. And at least externals are in our control. We'll have to work on it. Internal ultimately is by chanting in the mode of goodness, the effects of the rajas and tamas will slowly get pacified. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobadascheta chet eter anabhiddham stitvam satve prasidati. As in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned in the first canto, second chapter, maybe I think 16th or 17th verses. Tada rajas tamo bhava, the effects of mode of passion and ignorance, Kama lobhadasya, mode of passion, kama, and lobha means greed. That is the effect of the mode of ignorance. Chet eter anavidam. The chitta now doesn't get affected. Why? Stitvam sattve prasidati. Now internally you are fixed in the mode of goodness. So externally we'll have to work on the factors which are in our control. Any other questions? Okay. So I hope Vikshape, these 5 states of mind help us to understand how we can avoid Vikshape is to come to the state of Ekagrata. Now the next is, I spoke about the postures and devotee had asked about these different postures. So in the Gita Bhushan is the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita by Srila Baldev Vidya Bhushan. And these very same verses which we had referred, 6.11 to 12, if you remember, we had referred to these verses when we are discussing Sucho Deshe Pratishtapya Stiram Asanam Atmana Nati Uchitram Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotram. So Tatra Ekagram Manakritva. So here for this verse, Srila Baldev Vidya Bhushan writes a commentary. And here he mentions that one should sit rather than stand or lie on that asana. So one should sit on the asana, he should not even stand or lie down, which has been established. Since the Vedanta says, asina sambhavat, one should sit because then meditation is possible. So we mentioned that if you want to deeply absorb ourselves in chanting, then we have to meditate on the holy name, to concentrately hear the holy name. And sitting is the best. When we sit in the asana, we can attentively hear the holy name. So that is why here, Sambhavat, it is possible. Only meditation is possible only by sitting, not by walking or not by other means. And especially these are these 4 asanas, postures, which Patanjali Muni recommends for sitting straight. We saw that Samam Kaya Shiro Grivam. The torso, the neck, and the head should be in straight line. So the first one is the Siddha Asana, where the toe is placed below the genitals and one portion is placed above. So this Siddhasana is a very difficult asana. Siddhasana means perfected asana, and it is only recommended for brahmacharis, not for grahasthas. And you can see how relaxed his hands are in this posture, and the torso, neck, and the head is not so straight here, but still it is straight. So this is one asana. The next asana is the Padmasana. The Padmasana, we can see it is called as a lotus pose, and even this asana keeps especially the back straight. So this is recommended, the Padmasana. The easiest one is a variant of the Padmasana, which is called as the Sukhasana, where instead the legs coming on the thigh, they are just relaxed in between the thighs. And this is the Sukhasana. This is the best asana. And you can see, in fact, the legs should touch the floor. Here you can see it is touching. Here also you can see almost it is touching. And then there is the Swastikasana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is to sit in Swastikasana. It's like a swastik, it forms like a swastik. This is also an excellent asana for sitting and chanting. So 3 things are very important in chanting. One is called as posture, second is pronunciation, third is a prayerful mood. The posture has to do with the body. The posture, if you are in a right posture, then you can hear the mantra. Pronunciation is, because the subtle organ, vacha, that is involved. So we have to pronounce clearly and distinctly the Mahamantra. And prayerful mood is the soul. The soul should be in a prayerful mood while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So body, mind, and soul. At these three levels, there should be a, you can say a sync, it should be properly synced. And then the mantra will have deep effect on the chitta and Chaitorjarpan Marjanam happens. So this is regarding the asana. Now, in the previous discussion also, if you remember, when we apply these three positive applications, one still further in his battle with the inattentive mind, he is allowed to clearly hear the Mahamantra while there is no disturbances from the internal dialogue between the mind and intelligence. So here, when we hear the mantra, where we can battle the consciousness which is absorbed in the outer world. And actually, when we hear the mantra, what is the effect? What happens? Last class, I explained that I will explain this in the form of a mandala. So today we will take that discussion on the mandala. Now, this is based on the Bhagavad Gita 8 chapter verse 12 to 13, especially verse 12. Sarvadvarani sanyamya manoridhi niruddhacha murdan adhyatmana pranam astito yoga dharayan. So I will not read text 13 because that's not necessary, because text 12 is important. Sarvadvarani sanyamya. While withdrawing the senses from sense objects, Sarvadvarani sanyamya. Now here, interestingly, Krishna is using dwar, gates. We have gates in our body. Now we are not referring to the 9 gates, which we are all familiar. The 2 eyes, the 2 nose, the 1 mouth, 2 ears, these are 7, and the anus and genital, 8 and 9. So the gates here is a different concept, which Lord Krishna is using. So there are different levels of gates. Just like we enter, especially South India temples, there are many gates where we pass through, and then we enter actually the temple. And within the temple, where the Lord is, deity is there, what it is called? Anyone knows? Can raise their hand. What it is called? Where the deities are actually there in the South India temples, especially. Maya Narasimha Prabhuji? Yes.
Oh, it is called Garbhagudi.
Huh? Garbhagudi. Garbhagudi. Any other term? Anyone knows? Yes, there is one more hand which has been raised. Praveen. Yes?
Sanctum, sacred sanctum storeroom.
Yes, that is the English term. I am looking for the Sanskrit term now. Satyavrat Chaitanya Prabhu.
Same thing, Prabhu. Garbhalaya.
No, I am looking for the term called as Sannidhi.
Oh.
Sannidhi is also a word which is being used. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses this in 15.15. Sarvasya chaham sannidhi. There, that term is used. So sannidhi it is called. So there are different gates. So the gates are, the first gate here, Krishna is speaking about senses and sense objects. This gate, our consciousness is caught in the senses and sense objects. So our consciousness is basically at the sensual level. Then you have to, the consciousness has to be withdrawn and taken inside. And inside there are different, again, gates. Concentrating the mind in the heart, manoridhi niruddhacha. So here, this term is very important for us, manoridhi. So inside there is a gate in the subtle body, that is the mind. Now, if while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the mind is wandering everywhere, that means we are still on the mental platform. First gate was the sensual platform, senses and sense objects. And we are chanting the Mahamantra, but the mind is wandering. The mind is not hearing the Mahamantra. So the Mahamantra is not entering the heart. But if the mind is attentive and you have controlled the mind, then this is another gate, next level of gate. How? Fixing the prana at the Agya Chakra, Murdhan Adhyaya Atmana Pranam Astita. So we spoke about the pranayam technique for chanting, and we also spoke about focusing on the Agya Chakra to be in the present so that the mind doesn't wander on the past or the future. So that principles we talk. Completely absorbing in thoughts of me, Yoga Dharayan, Asito Yoga Dharayan. So Yoga Dharayan means now completely fixed in hearing the Mahamantra. Now, since in the 8th chapter, Yoga Mishra Bhakti is discussed, uttering Om is mentioned, and Srila Prabhupada in his purport explains it is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for us. So what is this opening and closing of gates? So let us look into this principle today of the concept of opening and closing of the gates. Now here is a mandal. Here is a mandal. You are all familiar with mandals. And there are different mandalas you can see here. And these are gates. These are the gates here. These are the gates. Now this refers to actually the heart. Manoridhi, what was mentioned, the heart in chanting. And this is where Krishna's mercy is there. So heart here especially refers to the soul. Now the soul is covered by the subtle body. So there is the mind here. Then the soul is covered by the gross body and the senses are there. And then there is the environment outside us. And then there is the body also at the gross level. Now I will explain how this opening and closing of the gates happens. Now imagine we are sitting in the temple in the early morning to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And while sitting, the Mangalarti is over, the Tulsi Arti is over, the Shishashram chanting is over, and we sit in a proper posture and we start uttering the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But our consciousness is absorbed in the environment around us. Oh, the temple pictures are very nice. Oh, who is coming there inside the temple now? Oh, that devotee is, dozing while he's chanting. So the whole consciousness is absorbed in the temple environment. So if our consciousness is absorbed in the environment around us, then although we are uttering the mantra, we are not conscious of Krishna, or we are not conscious in hearing the mantra because our consciousness is absorbed in the environment. So we have to withdraw our consciousness from the environment and get it to actually the self. The self means the body. So this is this is the door we have to surpass, means the consciousness absorbed in the environment. Get it to actually the self. Now the self here is the body. Now we have withdrawn our consciousness from the outer environment. We are not conscious of what is happening in the outer environment, and we are trying to attentively hear the mantra. Now, while hearing the mantra, we are conscious of the bodily pain. You are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but the mind is saying, oh, my thighs are paining. Oh, my stomach is hungry. Maybe I should have some prasad because yesterday night I did not have anything. So now I'm feeling very hungry. And maybe take a break, my dear mind, and have something and then come and sit and chant. So all this discussion is happening. All this internal dialogue is happening. That means, where is our consciousness locked? Can you answer? Where is the consciousness locked? Anyone raise your hand? Where is the consciousness locked? There is one devotee who has raised his hand. What about others? Yes, Maya Narsimha Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, I think it is on the bodily sensory level, Prabhuji. We are relating with our pains and pleasures of body.
What, where it is locked?
In the body.
Okay. Prem, you have something to say?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. The body senses.
No, we'll only take the body now. So we are conscious of the bodily pains and pleasures, conscious of the needs, of the demands of the body, hunger, pain, all this. So although we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we are not able to hear the mantra because we are conscious of the body. So this is this gate, the bodily fatigue. We have to withdraw the consciousness above the bodily platform. And above the body is the mind, is the senses. Indriyani paranyahur, indriyabhya parammana. As in the Bhagavad Gita 3.41, I think it is said. So now you are not conscious of the body and you're trying to hear the mantra and chant the mantra and attentively hear. But the senses are attracted to the sense objects. The senses are getting attracted to the sense objects. So we are here in the mandala. First, we have closed this door. Our consciousness is no more absorbed in the environment. Then the consciousness was on the bodily platform. We have withdrawn our consciousness inwards. And now we are inside here. We are inside here. Now the battle is between the senses and sense objects. I have opened my eyes. The senses are getting attracted to the sense objects. And we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but the interaction is happening between the senses and the sense objects. So we are not actually able to hear the Maha Mantra. At the same time, if I open my eyes, keep my eyes open, the senses will wander to the sense objects because that is the nature of the senses. The senses are naturally drawn towards the sense objects. Natural flow is there. So if I close my eyes, there can be two things which can happen. One is I might go to sleep. Another thing which can happen is the sense impressions are there in the chitta. And you might go in a dream state where the senses contact the sense objects, although the eyes are closed. And the reel or the impressions which are there in the chitta, that reel starts playing. Oh, yesterday I did this activity, this devotee said something, and how I was disturbed. All that film is being played. Movie is being played of the senses and sense object interaction inside, even when we have closed the eyes physically. So that is why the yoga principles recommend neither to keep the eyes open, because that will distract the senses towards the sense objects, external distractions, neither to keep the eyes closed, because if you keep the eyes closed, then the internal distraction, because of lot of sense impressions which are there in the chitta, you will start internally wandering. Although somebody might see that you have closed your eyes and you're fixed in samadhi, but the inner screen of the mind is being played and the movie is being played of the senses interaction with the sense objects. So the body, the senses in chanting, this is the second level. Here you can see now we have first crossed the door of the environment, then the door of the body. Then this third level is the senses and sense objects. So the sense objects is when the eyes are open, and inside when we close our eyes and there is no interaction with the senses and sense objects, even when the eyes are closed, that is another level. Now in sleep, what happens? In sleep, our eyes are closed and we see dreams. So what are these dreams? The dreams are the sense impressions which are there in the heart. They are, going in the outer environment in the dream body and enjoying sense objects. So we have to transcend even that. First is the external interaction with the senses and sense objects, and then there is the internal distraction of the senses and sense objects in the subtle body. So if we are conscious of the external distraction, senses and sense objects, still we are not hearing the mantra. If we are conscious of the internal reel which is being played, we are still not hearing the Maha Mantra, although we are chanting. Now, when you withdraw still your consciousness within and try to hear the mantra, then the last battleground is the mind. It is the mind. If while chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you are conscious about the mind, that means still the mind, you are at the mental platform. But Manoridhi, what the word has been, term has been used is Manoridhi. But when the mind is still, as we mentioned about a calm lake, especially in the Ekagrata stage, calm lake. So when the mind is still, then the Mahamantra, what you hear, Mahamantra, it is vibrated in the environment. It transcends the bodily platform, transcends the sensual platform, transcends the internal chitta, transcends the mind, and actually enters the heart. Actually enters the heart. And there, the Mahamantra, because it is transcendental, it is spiritual. The Atma is also completely spiritual. So both are conscious beings, both are Chit Vastu, both are spiritual in substance. We can experience ecstasy in our chanting. We can experience ecstasy, and there is where Chaito Darpan Marjanam happens. Then all the anarthas which are seated in the chitta are uprooted because the Mahamantra has entered the heart. Chaita means the heart. Darpan means cleansing. Marjanam means cleansing. Darpan means mirror. So we can understand how much we should work on to fix our consciousness, to withdraw our consciousness from all these external gates and focus and open the gate of the heart where we can, where the mantra can enter the heart, Manoridhi, and do the cleansing. So right now for us, when the senses meet the sense objects, we experience ecstasy. When Gulab Jamun, it's a sense object, sits on our tongue, which is a sense, the tongue is one of the senses, then we experience happiness, ecstasy. But the Maha Mantra, which is spiritual, when it reaches the heart, when it transcends all these gates, then real ecstasy is experienced. And then we can have the full effect of the chanting. Now remember one more thing with respect to this opening and closing of the gates, that once these gates are open, then the Mahamantra enters and the gates get closed. The gates get closed. But if your attention again comes out, then suddenly the gates, all these gates open, and again your consciousness is absorbed in the outer atmosphere. So this is a very, very fine and subtle phenomena which is happening within ourselves. And this we can understand by this mandala with the concept of the opening and the closing of the gates, which has been discussed in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dvarani sayamya. All the dwaras, you have to control them. So this is the concept of opening and closing of gates. Now, any question regarding this you have? You can raise your hands. Reena Mataji has a question. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Actually, it's not so clear. Can you repeat after the body senses this that gate? So it's better for me.
Yes. Yeah, I know this is a very difficult subject to understand. Simple thing is, while sitting and chanting, if you observe that I'm conscious of the bodily pains, I'm conscious that I'm hungry now, I want to eat. The mind is constantly, like a dictator from within, having this, there is an interaction going. So our consciousness is on the bodily platform. And although we are vibrating the Mahamantra is not entering the heart. This we should understand. Now, this bodily platform is, many devotees get it. Now, the internal senses and sense objects, the external senses and sense objects, and internal in the heart. In the heart, these sense impressions are there. So this interaction, if we are conscious while chanting the Mahamantra, that means we are battling at this level here, or it is here. We have to transcend that. And then we have to come to the mind. And if the mind opens up, and that means the mind is very controlled while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then the Mahamantra through the mind enters the heart, Manoridhi. This is what is called as Manoridhi. And Chetodarpanam happens. Now, if you remember in the last class in some question answer discussion, I mentioned a very important principle that when the heart is open, the mind is closed. And when the mind is open, the heart is closed. Now, this is a very important principle in chanting, and I referred, I think, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's and Prabhupada's commentary on 10.10 in the Bhagavad Gita. Mat chitta mat gata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Their chitta, their heart, in their heart, I am residing. That's why they cannot live without me. They cannot live without discussing about me. Just like people cannot live without food, they will die. Mat gata prana. Their prana is dependent on Krishna Katha. If they don't speak Krishna Katha, then they will leave their bodies. Kataschanta mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So in this verse, at the end, Prabhupada explains, just like a lover, he has given his heart to the beloved. He is absorbed in the beauty of the beloved. So when the heart is open, the mind is closed. That's why the mind doesn't disturb him to do things. Oh, let me make a call. No. Because his heart is open to the beloved, he is absorbed in the sweet talks and the beauty of the beloved. So when the heart is open, the mind is closed. When the mind is open, the heart is closed. What does it mean when the mind is open, the heart is closed? That means we are, while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are battling with our mind. We are trying to hear the mantra, the mind is wandering here and there. We are continuously battling with the mind. So Srila Prabhupada, one of his disciples, very disturbed, came and spoke to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I'm trying to chant, but my mind is very disturbed. And Srila Prabhupada suddenly, very gravely said, no, all you have to do is vibrate the mantra with your tongue and hear the mantra. Where is the question of the mind? He said. Are you were shocked. No, the whole battle is with the mind, and Prabhupada is saying, where is the question of the mind? So Prabhupada is saying that chant from the heart. So that's why I explained that where our heart is attracted, heart here I mean the soul, whichever beautiful deities we are attracted to, we should keep those pictures and chant for their pleasure, so that we open our heart while chanting the Mahamantra and need not battle with the mind. And when we chant like this, the Mahamantra directly enters the heart and Chetodarpanam, Marjanam happens. I hope this explanation makes it a little more clear for you, Mataji.
हाँ एक्चुअली इट्स बेटर बट एक्चुअली वो आप ये सब बोलते हैं, लेकिन हम लोग जब प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो माइंड इधर वॉन्डर होता ही है, इधर उधर सब जाता ही है. लेकिन हम लोग जब माला करते हैं तो हमने ऐसा सोचना चाहिए क्या, जैसे हम वी आर हियरिंग, मतलब एक्सट्रा में हम बोल रहे हैं तो भगवान इससे खुश हो रहे हैं, तो जस्ट टू रियलाइज जस्ट दैट इमेजिन कर सकते हैं क्या? तो
Yes, when I'm chanting, I can, do a sankalp that I am chanting for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. In a humble state of mind, in a prayerful mood, we should begin our chanting so that we need not battle with the mind. Shushil Radhika Mataji has a question. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Now, today I was struggling in my chanting very badly, because the way you are saying ki what Prabhupada said, ki you have to just just have to utter the words, Mahamantra, and you have to listen it. But sometimes that only becomes very difficult, because last 2 days I was completely in material atmosphere, because I'm the only person who's practicing bhakti, and my whole family is not in bhakti. So I was with them and totally material conscious. And today while chanting, I was trying to chant, but my mind was wandering in last 2 days only. So it becomes very difficult sometimes to chant. How much you try to concentrate, how much you struggle, but बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है sometimes. It becomes very difficult. So that time, what we have to do for that time? Because whatever we are speaking now, it's practice. You know, you have to practice it for years and years, and then it will come. But when we struggle, that time, what we have to do? That moment.
Yes. Now, yes, I understand the genuine problems as sadhakas we face. It's not only your problem, we also face the same problem. So basically, if especially we have been disturbed with some activities, whether it is with the temple management or home management or whatever it is, especially we have to prepare our consciousness before we chant. What we do is specifically, we take chanting as any other activity we take, and we just switch from the activities what we were doing previously to this activity. But this switching also has to happen at the level of consciousness. So we have to prepare. Whatever has happened, we just sit in a calm, prayerful mood and reflect, oh, whatever activities have happened. Maybe it is Krishna's mercy that I should humble down. And like that, in a positive environment with positive thoughts, we have to prepare our consciousness before we go into the chanting session, because chanting is a different session, and dealing with your home management or temple management is a different environment. So this kind of preparations, like few tips which I was mentioning, through prayerful reflection, writing down, and then when we enter that environment chanting, I leave aside all these things which have happened in the 2 days. Now it is me and Krishna. Now I'm going to fix in my relationship with Krishna, and the holy names are my connection to Krishna. So now let me focus on this activity. So like that, we'll have to prepare and then do our chanting. So only when we do like this, then we can be free from the distractions of the past or the fears of the future. So like that, there are many tips and tools which we can use when we do this shift of consciousness. If you are aware of traveling, especially when you take a flight from one country to another country, especially if you're traveling, say, from India to UK, firstly, there is a time zone. We are going into a different time zone. Not only that, we are going to a different climate and environment. And the body clock is completely changed. And the body has to get acclimatized to that climate. It takes some time. So we'll have to allow the body to get acclimatized to that climate. And we'll have to set the body clock by taking proper rest and proper other things what are required, maybe some herbal drinks or maybe some massage, where the body sets back to the UK environment. So this at a bodily level, we feel it as a necessity and we do it. But consciousness wise also, this kind of a shift is required, especially when we go into the activity of chanting. So we'll have to be in a prayerful mood. We'll have to go to a different environment where we can sit and chant and focus our attention on the Mahamantra. So that kind of a consciousness shift in terms of the situation has to be, we'll have to prepare our consciousness to do those activities, especially of chanting. So that is what we need to do. Narmada Mataji has a question. Yes, Mataji. I've unmuted you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, saying that bodily concept, Atma, that everything. Is this body is, the body is nothing, body is dead body. It is. Whatever is there inside, it is Chetana. So the body, whichever intention the body is, it is not a issue. Only the Atma is, means when I am chanting, I am uttering only in my mind, not loudly. So when I am not uttering loudly, I am chanting in my mind, then I can concentrate. Only my mind is going through the Krishna, and I am doing his seva with the soul. So body is whatever the position, body is not a question. For means I am thinking like that. What is correct or not? That you understood?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Now we have to, although understand that the soul is actually consciousness, but now the soul's consciousness is spread in the body and the mind. The soul's consciousness is spread in the body and the mind. So that's why we are conscious of our body. We are at the bodily consciousness sometimes, or we are conscious of the mind. We are at the mental level of consciousness, but we are not conscious or realize that we are Atma. We are not at that platform. Only when we attain the stage of self-realization, when the consciousness is fully fixed on the self, and then the mind also becomes spiritualized, and the body also functions in relationship with the Lord only. But right now our battle is to withdraw the consciousness from the bodily platform to the mental platform and become conscious of hearing the mantra. That is very important. So that is how we'll have to understand. These principles are discussed again in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in the 13th chapter also. So we will stop here, but before we stop, we have still not began with today's discussion on the verses. So I will just give a preview for tomorrow. We have discussed this Pramad, 6th and 7th verse, and many principles with respect to that. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from verses 8 to 15, 8 to 10, he mentions, as long as one has not attained anurag, attraction, one must chant the holy name very carefully. So anurag means deep attraction for chanting the holy name. This refers to especially the chanting which is done at the stage of ruchi and asakti. So as long as one has not attained this stage where he has deep attraction to chant, nama ruchi is there, till then one should be very careful of committing this offense of inattention or pramad. So he's going to speak that in few verses, that is 8 to 10. And that time we will again have a lot of discussion on some of the points of this. So this we will take up tomorrow. So we'll stop here. It's already 5 minutes past 8:30. Any other questions or clarification anyone has? Virendra Yadav, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, this opening and closing of gates, various
Yes.
gates,
Yes.
this happens at mental plane, I mean, by controlling mind.
What happens? Like the phenomena happens at the mental level you are mentioning? What is your question? I'm still not clear. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I mean, this controlling of gates, this opening and closing, this happens at mental level, or I mean, I'm not able to get it.
Yes. No, it's a phenomena which uh, is where the gates are open and where the gates are closed. Now, physically, uh, uh, in your house, you have an external gate. You have an external gate at the boundaries. Then you have a gate, which is your door. Then inside, you will have a gate in the form of your bedroom, which you have a door. And like that, when you're sleeping, you will be conscious that at least, my bedroom door is locked. And you might be more conscious that, oh, house also might be, house door is also locked. But you might not be conscious that the boundary gate is not locked. So the consciousness, where is the consciousness fixed in? There where the gates open and close. Now, if your consciousness is locked in the environment, your consciousness is so much wandering in the environment, that means your gates are open and your consciousness is locked in the environment. You will have to withdraw your consciousness from the environment and at least come to the self, that is the body. That means you have closed the gate of the environment. Then when you're conscious of your body while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, you're conscious that I'm feeling hungry, there is pain in my legs, thighs. That means your gate or the consciousness of the gate of the body is open and your consciousness is following at the bodily level. You're bodily conscious. Now you'll have to withdraw yourself still within and transcend the bodily consciousness level of consciousness. That means you have closed that gate now. Gate at the level of the body. This gate, I'm feeling bodily fatigue, this gate, you have closed it. Then the senses and sense objects. And then the internal senses and sense objects. And then the mind. So these are more subtle gates, these are gross. So that's how we have to understand. So with the physical example of a house, which I mentioned, that becomes a little practical for us. But with respect to consciousness, the consciousness where it is locked in the environment, on the body, or in the senses and sense object interaction, or in the antakaran, senses and sense object interaction, or at the level of the mind, where it is locked. You'll have to see. Recently, I was reading Prabhupada Lilamrit, and initially the hippies who were coming, that is in San Francisco, many hippies were coming, and Prabhupada had started a second center there. So one couple had come, and Srila Prabhupada, the husband asked, Swamiji, what about my mind? So Srila Prabhupada was giving a very nice philosophical answer, but he was again interrupting, Swamiji, what about my mind? And Prabhupada was trying to explain patiently. Then again he interpreted, Swamiji, what about my mind? And Prabhupada just became calm and patient. One of the lady disciples, Prabhupada said, please chant Hare Krishna. Swamiji, what about my mind? At last the lady Mataji told, please follow what the Swamiji is saying, chant Hare Krishna. But what about my mind? So he's so much caught up in the mind that his consciousness is not able to even absorb the instructions, what Srila Prabhupada was saying. So where is the consciousness locked? That is where the opening and the closing of the gates, we can understand at that level, it is there. I hope it is a little bit clear now, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much. It's all about consciousness where it is locked. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we'll stop here, and tomorrow we will take verses 8 to 10 about Anurag. As we have not developed Anurag, one should carefully chant, and what are the important principles in that also we will see. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.